Right, everyone, get those forks ready because today we are diving deep into South Africa's culinary scene.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it does, especially because, South Africa was recently named Africa's best culinary destination.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to dig into what makes their food scene so special and what exactly awaits, if any of our listeners are feeling inspired to maybe book a trip.
I'm already hungry.
Me too. And we've got this newsletter from Love to Visit South Africa to guide us, so let's see what we've got.
Perfect.
Okay, so right off the bat, they are obviously very excited about this award, and I think it's interesting what they say about it. They're calling South African cuisine peppered with pizzazz, salted with something special, cooked with South African passion.
Cooked with passion. That's a good sign.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So clearly we're talking about more than just, good ingredients or whatever. What do you think gives their cuisine that unique passion?
Well, from what I know, their culinary history is fascinating. I mean, you've got indigenous traditions that go back centuries, right? And then on top of that, you layer in influences from the Dutch, the Malay, Indian cuisine. It's kind of a giant melting pot of flavors.
Makes sense.
It's got to be something special to stand out like that.
Yeah, and speaking of special, this newsletter, they've got this whole 24 hours in Cape Town itinerary. And honestly, just reading through the food part, I almost want to skip everything else and get straight to the eating.
I hear you.
Oh, and they actually recommend booking food experiences in advance.
Really?
Yeah, they say because of all the tourists.
Wow, that's saying something. I mean, when you've got that much demand, that usually means there's something truly special going on.
Yeah. And high tourist traffic, it often means a really interesting and diverse culinary scene.
For sure, yeah.
So let's see, what kind of culinary tapestry are we talking about here? Let's see. All right. So for starters, they've got this list of the 14 best bars in Cape Town. And it looks like a good mix of everything. You've got your fancy cocktail spots and then others that are more about local brews, maybe with a view, that kind of thing.
Nice. Something for everyone.
Exactly. Oh, and they mentioned homemade grandma's Coop sisters. That sounds intriguing, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that. It definitely caught my eye.
I wonder what those are. I feel like that's a good example of their traditional baking.
Oh, boy.
And then on a totally different note, they mention Johannesburg street food.
Oh, street food. Love it.
Yeah, and apparently there's this thing called braai bread and beefhead.
Braai.
Yeah, braai. It sounds intense, right? I'm thinking like some kind of barbecue situation.
Yeah, maybe. We'll have to dig into that later.
Braai bread and beefhead, that's a mouthful.
Literally. But hey, even these little details they're mentioning, it just makes you want to learn more,
Totally. It's like they're giving us these little snippets to pique our curiosity.
Exactly. And it's not just about the food itself either, right?
Yeah.
This newsletter, they're also really emphasizing experiencing the destination as a whole.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They talk about the Table Mountain Cableway celebrating its 95th anniversary.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Can you imagine, like, going up there and getting that view?
Oh, man. With a delicious meal. Sign me up.
Right. And they mentioned yacht hires for ocean exploration, too.
They're really selling the whole experience, aren't they?
I know. It makes you realize that culinary tourism is more than just, eating a good meal. It's about immersing yourself in the culture, the attractions, everything.
Absolutely. It all ties together, creates a much richer experience overall.
It does. And just when I thought my curiosity couldn't be any more piqued, they hit us with two things that have me totally hooked.
Oh, what are those?
Okay, first, there's this image on social media. The caption says, Sugar bird on pincushion protea.
Sugar bird on pincushion protea. Now, what in the world is that?
Right. Is it a dish? Is it a bird? Is it like some exotic flower arrangement with a sugary surprise?
All right, you've got my attention now. And the other thing,
It goes back to that braai situation we were talking about before. They mentioned it a few times, so it seems like it's a pretty big deal in South African cuisine. And I, for one, am dying to know more about it.
yeah, that sugar bird on pincushion protea thing, it's definitely a head scratcher. But, I did a little digging, and it turns out the pincushion protea, that's actually South Africa's national flower.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's known for its really unique look, so I'm guessing that part makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does. But what about the sugar bird part? Are they like known for hanging out on those flowers or something?
They are. Sugar birds are these tiny little birds, really colorful, and they just love nectar. So you'll often find them flitting around pincushion proteas, feeding on the nectar. So my guess is, even though the newsletter doesn't come right out and say it, they're probably hinting at like a dessert or a cocktail named after these two very South African things,
That makes sense. It's like a play on their local flora and fauna. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so back to that braai thing, because it sounds like it's more than just your average backyard barbecue,
Oh
right?
yeah, way more. In
Yeah.
South Africa, braai, like that's a whole institution. It's about so much more than just the food.
Yeah, how
It's
so?
about gathering with friends and family,
Mm.
sharing stories around the fire, celebrating life's simple pleasures.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, it does. And the newsletter, they mentioned using specific types of wood. Like that's a big part of the whole experience.
Oh, yeah, they did. Why is that?
So it's not just throwing any old charcoal on there.
Yeah.
Different woods, like they mentioned Camille Doring or Roykrens, those give totally different flavors to the food.
Wow, so it's almost like choosing a wine pairing, but for your fire.
Exactly. They don't mess around when it comes to their braai.
That's wild. And it's not even just meat they cook this way, is it?
Nope, you can braai pretty much anything. Meats, seafood, veggies. They even braai fruit sometimes. And the seasoning, they use this blend of spices. It really reflects all those different cultures that have influenced their food. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
You know, it just occurred to me that whole braai thing, it really embodies that cooked with South African passion thing we were talking about earlier.
Totally.
It's like it's not just a cooking method, it's an experience, a way of life.
It really is. It's about slowing down, enjoying the company of people you care about, really savoring the food. And, that seems to be a recurring theme in South African culture in general, right?
Yeah, I see that. Like from those bustling markets to the vineyards, there's this emphasis on community and,
Right.
just enjoying life. So it makes sense that their culinary scene would reflect that.
It does. It's about authenticity. It's about passion and this real deep respect for tradition,
Yeah.
and local ingredients. And I think that comes across. It doesn't feel like they're just following trends. It's like they're staying true to who they are
Yeah.
and inviting everyone else to come experience it.
And speaking of experiencing it, what kind of traveler do you think would really thrive on this kind of culinary adventure? Who should be booking that flight to Cape Town with an adventurous palate and an empty stomach, ready to dig in? It's more than just like, fine dining, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's about those real, genuine experiences.
Right. So that makes me wonder, like, what kind of traveler is really going to click with this whole South African food scene? Is it the foodie, the one who plans their whole trip around those fancy restaurants?
Hmm, maybe. But I think it's even broader than that.
Yeah.
I think it's the traveler who's really open to new experiences.
Okay.
Someone who's not afraid to, like, pull up a plastic chair on a busy street corner and just try whatever's cooking on the braai.
That reminds me of that braai bread and beef head thing.
Right. You got to have a sense of adventure for that one
For sure.
because it's about more than just checking things off a list.
Totally.
It's about really immersing yourself,
Yeah.
talking to the locals, trying new things.
It's that traveler who sees food as like a window into a culture.
Exactly.
They get that sometimes the best meals are the ones you least expect?
100%. Those meals you share with new friends.
Yes. Okay, so this deep dive, I'll be honest, it's got me ready to book a flight. My inner foodie is very, very intrigued right now.
Mine too.
South Africa's food scene, it's more than just a feast. It's a whole journey.
That's a good way to put it. A delicious journey.
It is. So for all you listeners out there, if you're feeling that little spark of curiosity, I say lean into it. Maybe try out a South African recipe at home.
Yeah.
Do some research on braai, or hey, maybe even book that trip to Cape Town and experience it all firsthand. Your taste buds,
Yeah.
your sense of adventure, well, thank you. All right, everyone, until next time, happy exploring.